What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Great Men with Shane Sams. This is the podcast where I hang around with great dudes. And I've got a great dude on the podcast today, the man, the myth, the legend, Clinton Young. What are you doing, bro?
Let's go, Shane. I'm fired up to be here with you, man.
Me and Clinton have rode into battle at many an event together. We have been out on the speaking circuit. I love people that understand how crazy it is what we do for a living, brother, because it's like you just can't, you just had to be there. That's pretty much what I tell most people when you do this line of work. But dude,
Totally.
I've loved, man, hanging out with you, getting to know you. And we got a lot of common things going on, and you're doing a lot of cool things out in the world. But just give me a little background real quick for everybody listening. What's the path been like for Clinton Young up to this point?
Yeah. So if you don't know anything about me, which you probably don't, I'm a professional speaker like Shane, also a coach for sales professionals. And the path has been crazy, dude. Like, as you know, I mean, ups and
Yes.
downs and twists and turns. And I could tell you a story about 2008, how I got smacked around. It kind of set me on this sort of spiritual path or this awakening process. You want me to tell you that story?
Let's use that as the teaser. See, this is
Okay,
in
that's
the
the
in the,
teaser.
in the business. This is what we call a hook. All right, so that's the hook. All right. But how did you get into speaking originally? I don't know if I've ever asked you that before. Like, what actually got you out on stages? Because this is one of those jobs, guys, that is not for the faint of heart. Like, because if you want a job where you are judged live in front of hundreds of people every Saturday and nothing you've ever done in the past matters except for that talk, come on in. We'll teach you how to do it. It's a good time. But like, I do want to know, how did you get into speaking?
Yeah, I've always been somebody who I'm into personal growth and development. I'm always like the basic building block of any change, in my opinion, or any growth is awareness, a deepening level of awareness. And one of the things I really gravitated towards early on in my career was just knowing more about myself and specifically my strengths. What's my
Mm.
personality? Like I've taken millions of personality assessments, or not millions, but several, right? I've got
I
some
take one a week,
expertise
bro.
in
You just
development.
keep digging once
Yeah,
you
you,
find
you
those
keep
things, man.
you keep digging. And I've always gravitated towards the roles that were like sales roles, roles that had me need to stand up, that had me
Mm.
need to be the leader or whatever. It just the role just inherently was something that had me be the one that was opening my mouth. And I realized after that happening several times early on in my career, I'm like, I kind of like this, like not being behind a computer and being out with people. And so I just gravitated towards that. And I started working for a pretty large education company about 15 years ago.
Mm.
And I found that every role that I took, didn't matter what my role was, I found a way to speak inside of that role. And
Interesting.
so I started speaking.
Success leaves clues, baby.
Ex-
When it starts emerging, man.
exactly, my man. Oh. So who's the success leaves clues guy? Come on.
I don't even know who
Jim
said
Rome,
that.
baby.
Yeah,
Jim
Jim Rome.
Rome.
That's who said it. I always say that. I love that quote, and I don't even. I forget. I'm ADHD, like literally diagnosed, and I just forget who says anything. I
Dude,
just. Here's my rule is I will give people credit twice, and then I'm just gonna say it like it's mine.
exactly. That's what my mentor always said. That to me. Say it three times on stage and it's yours, baby.
That's right, baby.
All right. So the great Shane Sam says success leaves clues, and I totally agree with him. And so I found myself in this role where this company had 4,000 events a year, from the previews to the 3 days to the fulfillment events, and I was part of that fulfillment event team where I'd speak on stages. And I found like I really came alive when I was
Mm,
speaking. So in 2018, I said, you know what? It was actually after listening to a podcast from one of your best friends, Grant Baldwin, with the Speaker
mm.
Labs. Listen to one of his podcasts, episode number 25, baby, with
There you go.
Rel Moody. And I
He's on
started,
episode 500, so that was a long time ago.
that was a
He's
long
got
time
over
ago, dude.
500 podcasts, man.
I think I
Yeah,
listened to it in 2017, but in 2018, I hired my first coach. And that's the key, man. You want to deepen your level of awareness, you got to do three things as a speaker. You got to get the reps. Number one, you got to speak, right?
yes,
You got to watch the game tape. Like right now, I'm recording myself speaking, even though I'm on a Zoom with you doing a podcast, because you
totally.
got to watch your game tape. That's number two. Every world class athlete works out. They do the reps, they practice, and then they watch the game tape. And number three, you got to hire a coach because the coach can see around the corner that you just can't see. So that's what I did. I hired a world class speaker, actually multiple National Speaker Association Hall of Fame speakers as my mentors and my coaches. And I just started getting the reps. I was speaking
Totally.
everywhere I could for free until all of a sudden, 17 months in, I got my first $10,000 gig.
everyone's speaking journey is a little different because you speak for a million different reasons. You know what I'm saying? And like, it's funny. When I first started thinking I wanted to speak, like I had already been a podcaster for like 10 years, man. You talk
Yeah.
about reps,
Oh yeah.
just saying stories. This is something I've thought of in the last like couple years. I've been kind of telling people this on stage is I kind of think everybody needs their own podcast. Like
Mhm.
even if you're just a dude, we all talk to people all the time. And just like, even if it's just you doing a solo show and you kind of put it out there in the world, you get to put your words together. You get to think
Yeah.
things through. And especially if you do go on like that personal growth journey. Like I started my real personal growth journey in 2012, I was just trying to, like you said, hire coaches, learn from gurus,
Yep.
anybody that could tell me how to do something tactically strategic, how to piece all this entrepreneurship stuff together. I just started listening to them. And then somewhere around 2020,
Mhm.
that's when I started looking around and going, "Ooh, this doesn't feel right. Like I've made the millions, I've got the big house, my wife's hot, my kids are awesome, I'm investing in the stock market, all this shit that they tell us to do, whatever it is." And like, but something was just off a little bit. And then like when you really decide to look inward instead of
Mhm.
always getting your answers outside of you, man, that's a weird spot because you don't know what you're going to find. And those
Mhm.
awarenesses, man, when you really see inside of you and you see what you're made of and you start learning what you need to do to grow and evolve and transform, you can't unsee it. And that awareness happens. Like what started that journey like back in 2008,
Yeah.
like when you really started working on yourself like more personally?
Yeah, we all know what happened with the global financial crisis in 2008. And this is my first entrepreneurial endeavor at the time. First time I'd ever made six figures in a year. It was a couple years prior to that in '05. And I'm humming along. And then all of a sudden, the crisis happens and I lose my properties. I
Oh,
lose my business. And I like 60K in the pipeline. It just dried up in January.
were you buying like rental properties and stuff, investment properties, or
Uh,
what were you
yeah,
doing?
I had two investment properties that were rental properties, and then I
Okay.
was selling real estate education. So I was
Oh
in the
wow,
world
gotcha.
of real estate education, and the funding dried up, and dude, I lost again business, credit score, properties, and this is like 6 months after getting engaged. Like, welcome to the team, honey. Right?
Wow,
We're still
man.
married though, baby. Eight,
That's
we're
right.
going
Hey,
on
man,
18 years now. So,
got to ride through
yeah,
the darkness to get to the light.
dude, it was. I talk about some darkness. So check this out. I find myself, I mean, I was shattered, dude. Like my confidence was shattered. And I
I
had
can
no
imagine.
idea why, other than, I had a financial failure, right? But it was more than that. Check this out. I've always been someone who followed my intuition, always. And just so we're all on the same page, if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's like, it's not like a conscious reasoning. It's just this sort of feeling, this sort of knowing. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
This
the gut,
knowingness in your
feeling in your
bones and your
gut.
gut. Exactly.
Yeah,
And I'd always been someone who followed that even before I even knew what it was, before I knew what personal growth was. And it always seemed to work out. It wasn't always exactly how I thought. Usually it was better. But I'd always been someone who trusted that. And that was sort of my model of the world. And what I realized, fast forward 2010, I find myself at a seminar. I am not leading this seminar by any stretch. I am in the audience and I am freaking lost. And I stand up and I'm speaking into the microphone in front of 200 people. And the seminar leader looks right at me, Shane, and he's like, "Clinton, you're dead inside." And I was just
ooh,
like, dude, it was like a stake to my heart, but he was freaking spot on. You know that little pilot light under your stove, under a gas stove?
yeah.
We all have this sort of proverbial pilot light. And my pilot light was almost out. It was flickering at best. And I
Wow.
knew in that moment that I had to reignite my human spirit. I had to
Mm,
reignite my human spirit. It was there. It was there. It just was flickering, right? Fast forward a little bit further and I'm out in nature doing what I like to call black sheep habits. I created this list of black sheep habits of some of the top entrepreneurs, fighter pilots, all the peeps, Olympians. They do these habits. So one of them is contemplation. Right, taking walks in nature, taking a walk in nature in 2010 after that seminar, and dude, it hit me like a freaking Harry Potter thunderbolt right between the eyes because I thought my intuition failed me. I'm like, why did my intuition allow me to buy those properties? Like, and my whole model of the world was broken because I'd always been someone who followed my intuition, and I thought it failed me. And I realized in that moment, dude, boom, right between the eyes, it wasn't my intuition that failed me. It was me that failed my intuition. I remembered in that moment, my intuition did give me warning signs not to buy those properties and to do the due
Uh,
diligence and I let fear, I let greed, I let impatience take over
yeah.
and
Did you buy
laziness.
did you buy a lot of courses and stuff about real estate as you were getting into it and doing things like that?
I did, but I didn't take enough time to actually like do them.
Yeah,
I
but
learned just enough to be able to sell them really, really well.
it's super interesting though because I really get what you're saying here. Kind of disjointed though because like for me and my story, it
Yeah.
happened in a different kind of order.
Yeah.
But like I remember now with wisdom and hindsight, looking
Mm.
back at like my first, let's say 5 years when we were really taking off, like Flip Lifestyle was blowing up and like
Yep.
everything was going. Our education company, we sold it, and like all these crazy things. It was like I was painting by numbers, man. I was just taking
Mm.
whatever Russell Brunson would teach me or Pat Flynn would teach me or just whatever. And I was just executing on it
Yeah.
really well. And my wife was executing really well. And it was kind of humming along. And then, like, I realized, though, now looking back at that, oh, I've never thought about it as an intuition thing, but I always felt like something was off. And I kept like I thought it was just I wasn't setting big enough goals. So I kept setting
Mm.
bigger goals and I kept accomplishing bigger goals and always kept things happen. But I realized that I had turned down my authenticity. It was still coming out because I'm a charismatic person and like my
Yeah.
personality is going to come through. But like I realized maybe it's intuition is the right word. I had turned down my intuitions in some things to
Mm.
paint by numbers in someone else's plan. And I know now, which led to something later, I know that's where I betrayed myself
Mm.
is I thought I'll just do it exactly. This works. I'm just going to do it. I hate that advice that people give to everybody. I know there's best practices and all that crap, guys, but like I can look back now and really realize that man, that's a really good. I turned down my intuition because of
Mm.
their goals, their dreams. They told me this is what success looked like, and then it eventually ended up biting me, just like it did you a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
That's a good
Yeah.
insight, dude. Yeah. So when you figured out you turned that you betrayed your intuition on this walk, like
Yeah.
what kind of reset happens at that point? Because you've still got all these skill sets, you've still got all these
Yeah.
things that this thing still happened, but you were wrapped in the identity of what it was. Like what happens at that point? Like how do you get the
Yeah, man.
intuition back?
I wish that I could say I just pushed a button and it was like, bing,
That's
back.
not how it works. Come
No, man,
on,
not how it
man.
works. But
God,
a lot
jeez.
of your listeners might be like our age, kind of out us mid to late
How do
40s,
you? How do
right?
you?
I'm actually 49. I think I got you by a year.
I'm 47. I turned 48 in
Years.
March. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. I want to
I'm catch.
date you.
If I grew my beard out like yours right now, though, it's as gray as yours, though. I just don't. I
Nice.
shave it because it's too gray. I've
Nice.
still got good hair up here.
Oh
It's
yeah.
the facial hair is gray though. Yeah, yeah, man.
Yeah. But dude, I mean, it was, at that time in life and in your 40s, a lot of men go through what some people call, midlife crisis. Some people call it going through the tunnel. And I do not have mastery around that. I am like at the other end of that. But man, was that really, really challenging time where you
It is
start to
a trip.
question everything, start to
Yeah.
question everything. Right. And so what I leaned into, just to give you an answer though, was again, I leaned into a couple things. I leaned into going internal versus external, which is something you said earlier. One of my coaches
Mm.
used to always tell me that back in the day, one of my mentors. I would go to like what gives me life? We're all vibrational beings at the end of the day, whether we know it or not. I don't want to get too woo-woo on anybody, but if you look at
Get as low
quantum
as you want,
physics,
bro.
we're all vibrational beings and we're going to attract things that vibrate at a similar vibration, right? So the first thing that I could do is do things that would put me in what I like to call the flow, right? We all have this sort of, this is one of the personality assessments that I'm an expert in, but it's a flow. There's what is that thing that like when you're doing it, time flies by. It actually gives you life. It doesn't take energy. It actually gives you energy, right? Where you add the most value to a team or to a company. That's when you're in your flow. So I would look for anything that would put me in the flow, even if it didn't have anything to do with making money, right? Because I was
Mm.
shattered financially too. But what did I do? I went to my local spiritual center and I volunteered to be a greeter because I
Mm,
knew that I'm great at shaking hands and kissing babies. And that puts me in a high vibration. Tony Robbins would say, change your state, right? Puts me in a
yeah, man.
high state, right? I'm not making money there. There's no opportunity there, but it raises my vibration. I started doing
Mm,
improv comedy because, again, that's things that allow me to raise my vibration. So that's what I would say people can do is lean into what makes you feel good, what puts you in a high vibe state, and then start practicing some of these black sheep habits like meditation. It's a great way to quiet your mind, right?
why do you call them black sheep habits? Because it's like
Yeah.
I kind of get it, I think,
Okay.
because I've been the crazy entrepreneur guy going after his goals is usually black sheepy a little bit. You know, I think that's what you're saying here. It's like
Yeah. So
the
check this
outlier
out.
kind of thing, right?
The outlier. Check this out. Most entrepreneurs are outliers. You got to be
Totally,
crazy to
bro.
be an entrepreneur, right? And
Insane.
so
Yeah.
at the same time, there's a lot of rewards to it. But it came from back in the day, I think it was 2005 when I was first, making my first six figures and like really becoming an entrepreneur.
That's pre-iPhone right there.
Oh yeah, baby.
2005. Good Lord.
I walk into one of my mentors' offices. I had an office there too. And I saw this dude literally, I'm not even kidding you. This is like a professional business office, sitting on a chair with his shoes off. He's got his the legs crossed. You can't see me if you're not watching the video. Fingers out like this, and just like closed eyes, looking up at the sky, meditating. And I was like, what the crap is this guy doing? Right? I didn't even know what meditation was at that time. So that is a guy that is committed to whatever value or benefit that practice gives him more than he's
Mm,
committed to looking good. Would you
yeah,
agree with
totally.
that?
Totally.
Right? He's a black
Yeah.
sheep, right? Black sheep have to be willing to do things that are a little bit outside of the norm. Now, in the mid 2020s now, meditation is pretty mainstream for the most part, but back then it really wasn't that mainstream. So
Yeah.
things like meditation, things like contemplation, walks in nature, journaling, visualization is like the granddaddy or grandmommy of them all to really accelerate what it is that you want. But a lot of people don't know what they want, especially when they're shook, like I was. You got to
Yeah.
practice things like meditation to quiet the mind. And then contemplation, taking walks in nature, is when things start to bubble up through the earth. You start to see ideas, and then you come home and you start journaling because those
Yeah.
ideas are slippery when you're in a really rough state. So these practices allow you to start to get that clarity and that momentum. And then you visualize, and then you start turbocharging.
Yeah. I had a very similar thing happen back in 2023. I know now a lot of reasons why. It was one of those things again, like on paper, nothing's wrong. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? No income problem, no family problem really. You're doing work, you're getting healthier. All these things were happening. I had a couple things happen that I know now. I've got I've got a couple relatives that are in their late 30s, and one of the things that I tell them at every family gathering now is please start checking your blood work every 6 months, because all of a sudden my hormones got all out of whack. Like I was
Mhm.
in late 2022, I was 280 pounds, completely out of whack. I had not taken care of my body like I do now. And I was like, my hormones were a mess. Like everything was a mess. And on top of that was where some of this just meant that men go through in their midlife. Like you're looking around and you're like, what else could I do? And I'm still not able to just be joyful and at peace and happy with it. I'm always looking for this next goal, always looking for these things. And it's funny you use the pilot light there, because there's this amazing song by a guy named Rob Ricardo. I don't know if you know who that is. He's amazing. You would love Rob Ricardo on your walks. I listen to him when I go for hikes, right? And he has this song. I can't remember which one it's called, but he goes, "Sometimes you look around and you realize your life is nothing more than embers and smoke." And I remember listening to that, and I felt that in that moment. I was like, anyone on the planet Earth would trade their life for mine right now. But for some reason, like deep in my soul, it was like embers and smoke. It just was not, I was not lit up by it. And I started doing some similar things like you're talking about here. And for everybody listening, one of the goals with this is to unpack everybody's ways that they generate these flow, this momentum, and these things in our life. You may not like meditation, but there's something else that you might do that gets you in that state. And for me, the one thing in that time in my life that I remember anchoring to was going to the weight room. Go into the weight room and picking up the heaviest thing I could possibly pick up on that day. And that's what pulled me internal. If I could go deadlift, if I could go bench, whatever it was, it didn't matter. I knew after that I would be, because if you don't get in your body and you don't go internal and you're putting something above your head that could break your skull, you might get hurt. So you have no choice but to be totally internal in that moment, kind of like a hike or something like that. And it made me go inside and like start looking at all the different things, whether it's my parts, whether it's your memories, your childhood, whatever the hell we look at when we're looking internally. And that's actually it's actually where I refound like momentum and passion. And momentum and passion is where ideas flow from. But I learned something about momentum and passion. Like if you put your flow and momentum, even if you like the tasks, into the wrong business projects, relationships, whatever it is, you will be just as miserable. You'll just be happier getting there because it's gotta land on something that's actually inside of you trying to like get out. And I heard somebody said this earlier. I can't remember where I heard it on, but we forget what passion means. When in 2012, when I first heard about entrepreneurship and follow your passions and follow your dreams, that sounded great. I want to walk on the beach drinking margaritas. That sounds awesome. That's my passion, right? But the original word passion means something you're willing to suffer for, you're willing to sacrifice for. And that gets lost in all this pop culture stuff, man. You know what I'm saying? When you focused on those things you could control, like show up in an improv, show up at a thing, just go do an hour of something that lights you up. What happened? Like, did you find like all of a sudden these random thoughts would appear? Did you just get clarity? Like, what happened after that once you finally started doing these things? See, because
Yeah.
everybody thinks it's, oh, I need to start a new business. I need to sell a new thing. I need to get a new career. I need to find a new relationship. But like, you're just like, I'm gonna go hang out for an hour and shake hands with people. Like that's totally different than I think what a lot of people teach people when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, man. When you change your state, and I love that you brought up working out, when you change your physiology, it's a great way to have a state change. And when I would do things like meditation or go do improv or be a greeter, like it would put me in that state. And you start to see things newly. You have think of it like we have a lens, right, through which we see the world. The
Mhm.
lens, all that lens is all the things that we're constantly thinking, and the things that we're constantly thinking and saying are really those are our beliefs, right?
Yeah, totally.
Beliefs are just thoughts that you think over and over and over again, or say over and over and over again. So
Don't
when
fake
we,
it till you make it, people. Don't fake it till you make it. No,
uh,
that's a bad idea because you're going to believe the fakeness and then you'll
yeah,
look around and you're fake.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess my lens just started to shift a little bit when you do things like meditation and get that clarity, and you elevate your vibration. You start to see things. They're already there all around you. You just aren't seeing them right now. But you
Mm,
start to see new things. Like I'm a little bit of a psych geek. I got my master's in organizational psych, and I've been geeking out on neuroscience and the human condition for like the last 15, 20 years. So I'm not the foremost expert in the world, but I know more than the average person. So I get a little geeky on psychology here sometimes. So
totally.
our brains, dude, are literally bombarded by billions and billions of bits of information every single day. And we do not have the capacity to see all that's going on around us. Again, getting a little into quantum physics here. So the way that we make sense of the world and don't go freaking crazy is our brains create beliefs, right? They
Yeah.
create beliefs, and that creates lenses through which we can see certain things. That's why two people can
and
have
th- and
this.
that and that's
Yeah,
on top of the filters that already exist. It's already shutting
100%.
some information out. I'm a big believer in the filter hypothesis that
Yep.
like we are filtering out 90% of reality just so we can survive. And then once you lock in on something that kind of works, you're going to believe it, man. If you're saying it, if you're writing it down, if you're listening to a podcast, like that's going to happen eventually.
Yeah, totally. So, anyways, so yeah, my filter started to shift, the lens started to shift. I started to see new opportunities, and I saw an opportunity to actually work with that large education company that I talked about. And
Nice.
I ended up being with them for like 8 or 9 years in a very entrepreneurial role and got to speak all around the country. And it really set the foundation for me becoming a professional keynote speaker and getting on
Yeah.
paid stages because I got so many reps, right? And it just put me in that opportunity.
I love how parallel everybody's journey is, but how different it is. It was really anchored in putting yourself in the right place to be in the right place at the right time. That's something I have lived and died by my entire career. Is like I had a buddy one got a buddy named Jeff Rose. He's a financial guy on Instagram. Good financial sense. Check him out. And I remember one time he was friends with Pat Flynn, and we had kind of been introduced on a text. Felt like there was a connection there. And Jocelyn and I took the kids to French Lick, Indiana, for some reason, to an indoor water park that we found online. And we're like, let's drive over there. Let's go there. So I'm in French Lick, Indiana, and I'm driving home. And at the time, Jeff lived up in Illinois, and we were driving back through Louisville, Kentucky. And I was like, hey, we're driving through Illinois. I wonder how close that is to Rose's house. And it was like 2 hours north. Like it was a detour through a cornfield, son. And I was like, let's put ourselves in the right place, be at the right place, right time. And I sent Jeff and I said, hey, I'm passing through. You mind if we stop by? And he goes, sure, man. What time are you going to be here? I'm like, well, it's about 3 hours. I'm like, about 4. But we took a left, man, and we drove to their house, ate a burger with them. Like our kids swam with their kids. And it's so funny because like honestly, that I would probably never met you if I'd never made that left turn, because like that led to meeting like Grant, led to meeting a ton of different people that put me in a space where 10 years later, me and you work together sometimes and get on stages together and do those things virtually and all that stuff. So it's like, it's just so interesting how, people think these insignificant things like be a greeter at the local spiritual center church, whatever you do, go talk to go do improv comedy and some guy talks to you in the crowd or whatever. But like that's actually the things you can control. And like you try to focus so much on the things that you can't control that you just kind of lose all your moment. You lose your momentum before you even gain it. And it's so easy to get momentum. Like in January, dude, I was like, I didn't post on social media what year is this? 26. I didn't post all 2025. I was just speaking. I was traveling too much. I just didn't care. I didn't post anything. And I was like, what's the least thing I can do to get momentum for the Great Men Project? And I was like, well, I know. I'll just post what I'm doing every day this month. Dude, by the end of the month, I'm freaking posting 5 times a day. I'm freaking emailing people. I'm freaking texting you to get on this podcast. Like it's just crazy. Like none of that was the plan for January. My plan was post once a day on social to get back in the groove. And it just spirals, man, when you just pick those little things that seem like they do nothing into something now. You know what I mean?
100%, man. And that's your intuition, right? You followed your intuition to go take that left and drive
Yeah,
through the cornfields to get to your buddy's house and look where
totally.
it leads us.
Yeah, man. What wisdom have you gained like through that process? Like, you and I have been on a spiritual journey, internal journey. I think I probably do more internal work than any human being I know. I don't know, but I feel like I spend an hour and a half a day just sitting with my parts and talking to myself, right? Try to figure out like what's going on. Because this head of mine is like, that's the only place I can actually like control and understand. I'm not even sure if you're real, Clinton, to be honest. Are you a projection are we in a matrix right now and I am just
Holographic.
projecting you? Are you even real? We just don't know. And like when you get inside your own head, like it's a crazy place. And you kind of, when you find those spiritual moments, like, you kind of want to abandon like everything you've ever thought before, but really that's like the foundation. You go to journeys. Have you ever done psychedelics in the past?
I
Anything
have,
like that?
yeah. I
Okay,
have.
I have
It's
two.
really rad.
I have two a few times, and like just to try it out. And I remember one time I was doing. We were going to do a certain one, and I was like setting an intention. And I was like, I want to solve this internal problem. I want to figure it out. I'm going to just do this, and I'm going to consolidate all this hard meditation and weightlifting and business and everything that's ever happened in the universe. I'm going to figure it out right now. You ever done that before? Like in whatever. All right. So I remember thinking that, and then we do this, and nothing happened. And you and I both know that nothing doesn't happen on
Right.
sometimes with those, right?
Right.
And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, and I feel more clear-headed than I've ever felt in my life. Everything is totally normal, and I'm like, what is going on? I have no idea what's happening right now. This is what Joe Rogan told me was going to happen. You know what I'm saying? This is bullcrap. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, dude, I just hear my own voice, and it said, everything you want is already right in front of you.
Mm.
And bro, I just stopped looking at that point and I just started doing. And that I think that was my turning point, like 2008. That was my lightning bolt moment. Is I was trying so hard to figure everything out for so long that I didn't realize I kind of already had it figured out. I mean, dude, what are you talking about, man? Everything you want is right in front of you. But the problem is, and this is happening for some people that I'm kind of mentoring and talking to right now.
Mhm.
Their view is so limited into these negative beliefs, these negative thoughts, these things that are going wrong, these things these paper cuts in reality of life, right? They're so limited on that viewpoint that they can't stand up, look from a different angle. Sometimes I work in the floor just so I can look at the world at a different angle. And when people do what you did, stood up, put yourself in that greeter line, go to the improv comedy club, talk to that guy that's into real estate, even though your real estate thing failed, you see that it was all sitting right there in front of you. You just weren't looking for it. Right.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's this formula that I discovered along the way. I call it the magical success formula. I'm out in Hawaii. I'm at this place called Kauai on Hanalei Bay, and I'm looking out, and this is 2010. I'm still feel quite shattered. And I was doing real estate at the time. I was helping people through short sales because I went through one myself. I had intimate knowledge of that. And my wife,
Way to turn your pain into some profits.
yeah, buddy.
Hey, I know exactly how this feels. Let me help you hurt less.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Right.
And my wife and I, we sort of deconstructed the parts of our life that worked really well several years before. We sort of
Ooh.
deconstructed that happiness code or that magic. And what we discovered was it's really three things. It's you got to be inspired, right? You've got to find a way to be inspired. And if you can't get to inspiration or passion, just go do something that interests you because that interest can grow into, as long as you're connected to your intuition and you're looking, it can lead to something that is a passion, something that you are inspired by. So you've got to be inspired. That's the fuel. And then you have to have absolute faith that it's already done. Right. I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
little kid confidence, right? That that
Mm-hmm.
that naivete that it's already done. The mere fact that you had the vision in your brain, in your mind, is proof that you can achieve it. It would be a cruel joke on humanity if you were given that view and you weren't given the potential to actually achieve it, right? So you got to have that faith, but you also have to have belief that it's even possible in the first place, that you can do it. So it's inspiration plus belief that you can do it and faith that it's already done. And then all you got to do is move your feet, move your mouth, start telling people about what it is that you're up to, what you're fired up about, how can you help? That's your action, right? So inspiration plus belief and faith plus action equals magic and miracles. I call this the discovery process. And this is exactly what I did. I've done this several times in my life where this serendipitous things will show up. You'll meet people when you're in this high vibration state, you're in the flow and you believe that something's possible. You have faith that it's done and you just go out and start talking to people. Man, that's where the magic happens, in my opinion.
I've seen that, dude. Action is the final step of creation, but you got to get there first.
Yeah.
And like I had something, man. It gets spooky, guys. Like it sounds so crazy, man. But like, because people are like, oh, positive mindset. They try to talk it down. But I've had two instances in the last 3 months where I literally spoke out loud in a hotel room. I want this to happen, and more just to get my brain thinking about it.
Yep.
And then like that thing happened. And then like last week, I was sitting there and I was like, man, I want to switch to XY. I want to do more of XYZ because I don't want to travel as much this year. I traveled so much last year. And I'm like, I just want to do these XYZ kind of events. I
Right.
kid you not, dude. I'm sitting in my kitchen the other day at my little counter there, eating a sandwich. Kids are at school. Jocelyn's somewhere. And I'm just sitting there and I was like, I need to say this out loud. I want to do XYZ. And the guy that could make that possible within 10 minutes texted me and was like, what are you doing this afternoon? And I was like, nothing. You want to get on a call? He's like, yeah, get on a call. He's like, I need you to do this thing next Wednesday. I'm like, get out of here. I'm not saying this. I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. But like, I was like, there's, it's like, it's crazy when you start looking for those things to happen in your life. But there was something else I wanted to touch base on there that I think a lot of people don't do. How long you been married? How long you been married?
So this is year 17 marriage.
How long were you together before that?
19 together, two
That's
years.
that's well done. Good, well
Right.
done. Like we're on 27. We're going on 28 right now. Together, we've been married like 21. We dated for a long time. And this is something people don't teach you how to do. And I think it's because people are scared to do it. But one of the things that we have done in couples therapy and, just working on our relationship is deconstructing what works, what doesn't work. And it's really like not works and what doesn't work. What's not working now.
Yeah.
Like that process of being really honest with yourself. Because guys, I hate to tell you all this. 7 years ago, 99% of the cells in your body were not there. You are almost physically every 5 to 7 years a completely different bag of meat and bones and fluid. And to think that that's not going to change the way those horrible memories that you think you remember that aren't really memories because you reconstruct them every time they come up is going to be the same, and your relationship is just what works in 2000 is going to work in 2020. Like that's not true. Like we just did this process recently. We're like, hey, what's going really good? And we were like, man, we are parenting at the highest possible level. Man, we are both really physically fit. We have really fixed our bodies from the harm that we did to it in our 30s, right? Like we started going through those things, but then you find things that are like, what's not going good? Oh, you got to be honest about that. But and then it's like, well, okay, that's cool. Just it's not going as good as it could.
Right.
What could go better? Like is there a different version of this? Is that an identity we need to let go of? Like what? Because I think men are scared to talk about this because it creates I think most men at their heart of hearts, when they're trying to be a man and take over the country and lead and all these things, my family and blah blah blah, like I think most men are scared of abandonment. I think they're afraid that they're going to screw everything up, and they don't have the energy left to do it again, right? Like what was that process like when you sat down with your spouse and were like, let's deconstruct every area of our life and let's look at this and let's be honest with what's working and what's not, and it's nobody's fault, but we need to figure out it has to work again. We got to figure these things out again because that's hardcore, bro. That's man, there's some guys out there sweating right now thinking about doing that, dude.
Yeah, I mean, we do that all the time. And the thing I'm really grateful for is my wife, even though it annoys me at times, she will not let anything be swept under the rug. Like nothing, right?
There you go.
So whatever's not working, we're going to talk about it. And one of the
Yeah,
things I've quite frankly struggled with is how do I be really successful, but also be a great, attentive husband at the same
yeah.
time? I'm a
We all
great
do, bro.
husband,
Yeah,
right? But being able to do both like really, really well consistently without letting off the gas on one or the other, that's been challenging for
it's
me
a
for sure.
challenge, dude.
Date
I've got
nights and romance and all these things, like I'm a work in progress there to keep
totally,
that.
bro. The balance is what's interesting because like this morning, me and Jocelyn are hanging out in the morning. It's good morning. Just got the day started, got the kids out, to school. And we were going to meet at the gym, but we decided to drive separate because Jocelyn, she had surgery a while back. So she's been going to physical therapy. So she was going to go physical therapy. I had stuff to do today. So we drove separate. And this is a little bit part of this balance equation, but it's also like this ADHD diagnosis, man. You talk about flipping like one, it's like your whole life makes a sudden amount of sense.
Mm.
And then you're like, oh my God, that's how my brain works. And one of the things that I struggle with mightily is time blindness. Like once you're the only thing that exists in my universe right now, bro. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what time it is. I don't know what we're talking. I'm just having fun talking to you right
I
now.
feel so special, Shane.
You are, but it's not really, man. It's just ADHD. No, I'm just kidding. but like this has been a thing I'm now aware of, which I can't unsee.
Mm.
But in the past, it was just like, get over it. I got stuff to do, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So I'm in the car, get a text from a buddy of mine. I'm like, hey, let me just give you a call. So I'm gonna call him on the way to the gym. And we get there, and he's having a pretty big, like, vulnerable moment with me about something that happened in his family, which I'll keep private. You know what I'm saying? And it was one of those moments where I'm like, oh, this is my bro, man. I gotta be here for this guy. Well, the problem is I lost track of time. I sat in my car for 30 minutes in the parking lot. I get inside, my wife's pissed. I can feel it. You know how you can just feel it? You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
yeah.
You can feel it. And I'm like, is this from something from like 6 years ago, from 6 minutes ago? I don't know what's going on right now, but I know something's wrong. And then, and she let me know, like, she said to me, my wife's Jocelyn's the same way. She's not gonna let anything slide. And she's like, hey, like you told me you were gonna be here for me. I needed you to put some weights on some racks for me because my shoulder's still hurt. I'm glad you were there for your friend, but that doesn't change the fact that this happened, right? And you kind of let me down here. And it's like, man, that balance of like, especially with dudes, man, we have so few dudes in our life that are vulnerable and will really take care of us when we need help and support. And then you got your spouse, and you got all, man. What do we do? How do you get better at it? Because there's no perfect answer. We're all just building the plane as we fly it. But that really hit me this morning. I was like, man, that it is impossible to truly balance everything.
Yeah, and you just hit on something that I think is greatly missing, and that is just communities like Great Men. Like, I mean, literally 2 years, up to 2 years ago, I'm 49 years old, dude. I had never been on, except for spring break in college, which I don't remember most of. I had never been on a trip with guy friends. And I
Wow,
was listening to one of your other podcast episodes, and it really hit me hard. Like I literally have, and when I do my year in review every year, I literally over the last 5 to 7 years, I've been writing down guys' names in my network, in my community, who I want to intentionally develop relationships with. Because without that, it's never going to happen. I'm
it's
just too
never gonna happen,
busy.
bro.
And you said something on one of those podcasts that like most men, or somebody said it, might have been Grant. He said most men's best friend is their wife, and most women's best friend is another woman. And it's like,
Totally.
so I'm just really grateful for what you're creating here at Great Men, because dude, it is so needed, man.
Yeah,
So
man.
needed in the world.
I'll tell you, it's so
We
funny,
don't have an
man.
outlet.
We don't, because if your wife is your best friend, which I'm not saying you shouldn't be best friends with your wife, like she's my oldest and dearest friend and always will be. But like at the same time, when that relationship has a problem, you have nowhere to go. I guarantee you, she has somewhere to go, and like that's how women work. But like dudes have to have that, and well, I say I stumbled into it, but again, I turned left and drove through a cornfield in Illinois, and that was a push to domino that led the butterfly that caused the hurricane, right?
Yeah.
And like I've been Grant and my boys have been going on this trip for 10 years, and we text every day. When a lot of times it's just a meme. Sometimes it's like I'm having a really hard time, and nobody's trying to solve anything. Don't look for dudes
Yeah.
that have all the answers, because nobody has the answers. Nobody knows what you're doing, and sometimes you just need people you trust to witness what you're going through.
Yeah.
And every year when we go on these retreats, every year we bring in new people. We ask two new guys to come on, new blood, just to have some fun. Dude, 8 straight years, every year, the guys leaving that trip almost in tears. Like, I don't want to let this go. I don't have anything like this. I've never heard of anything like this. Like, this is crazy. I feel different than I've ever felt coming out of a tree, because it's not a mastermind, it's a retreat, right?
Yeah.
And about 2 years ago, it hit me. I was like, I'm a community builder. I'm a leader. I want to smoke cigars with more guys. This is amazing. Like, why would I not just like do this experience? And that was kind of like what you talk about, that intuition and being in the right place and letting that come out. Like, it took me 2 years of more personal work and also just thinking about it, talking to guys like you, Trey, our buddy Trey, like just different people. And I was like, man, God, we have to have this now, because I'm telling you right now, y'all, you think social media screwed up our society? Just wait until AI screws up everything, because it's coming. And human connection is going to be harder and harder to come by. And that's kind of what the idea for Great Men was like, we got to have a place where great dudes can just go talk and witness each other and smoke cigars and bitch and moan and like, be motivated by other guys that are doing great things. But I don't really think anybody wants the answers. You
Yeah.
think you want the answers. I think you just need witnesses to hear your questions, and you have everything. The kingdom of heaven's within, baby. All the answers are inside of you. We just don't know
Mhm.
how to unlock them. I love your story. I love getting to know you, dude. You're one of those guys in my life. You're on the two hands, man, of guys that I'm like, that dude's done inner work. That dude is continue. He knows he's never done. He knows he's a work in progress. He knows this is something that's going to, we don't heal, we're healing, right? Like, just for everybody out there, we've talked a couple of times about going internal. Like, how can guys do that more? Realize that they don't need the answers from outside. They need to look within. And like, honestly, man, when you turn that around, guys, the shadow is a very hard thing to look at. How have you done that to where you've gotten to a place where when something's going down, you got to go get in the woods and you got to go inside of Clinton Young?
Dude, there's so many things I want to say right here, but I'm just going to try to keep it brief. So you've said a couple things as well on this. You said once you see it, it can't be unseen, right?
Totally.
And the path of self-discovery, the path of sort of spiritual awakening and just really becoming the masculine man, and I don't mean rah-rah, I mean like true power, right? Where you're also in touch with your feminine side. That is a journey that once you learn more and become more and more aware, it's actually not easier. It's not an easier path. It actually makes things harder, right? But it's way
You know how many
more
times a week,
rewarding.
Clinton? You know how many times a week I'm like, God, I miss ignorance. I
Yeah,
miss it.
ignorance
I
is
miss it,
bliss.
man.
There's a
I
reason
miss
why they
it.
say ignorance is bliss. It's true, but it's
Oh,
also
jeez.
ignorance and it does not lead to a fulfilled life. So if we want to truly, like, I'm a stand for a world where everyone feels fully alive,
Yeah.
fully freaking alive.
Which is
And to
not the
be
same thing as feeling good.
exactly,
That's
because
not the
fully
same
alive
thing.
is you feel the contrast. Like we are spiritual beings having this human experience. I'm going to say that again. We are spiritual beings having this very human experience. We get to have this human experience, and part of that experience is the contrast, the good, the bad, the ugly, right? But when you're not present, when you're up in your head, when you're not going internal, you're missing it, dude. You're
Yeah, man.
missing the juice of life,
Yeah,
right?
man.
So it's not always sugar plums and cherry blossoms. And it's much more fulfilling and rewarding when we do go internal, when we do practice things like black sheep habits, when we do hang out with dudes like Shane, hang around a campfire, right? Because one thing I've learned with my wife and going through this awesome program we're going through right now called Warriors and Queens for Marriage, I'm
Nice.
learning that like I can't actually share the things that I'm really dealing with. It's not really in my best interest to share most of them with my wife. It's in my
Totally.
best interest to share them with a brotherhood, to
That's
share
right.
them with a brotherhood. She can share
Yeah,
hers
man.
with mine, and I got to be that oak tree,
Yeah,
right?
man.
I got to be that
We,
oak tree to let
we
her,
are
but
the vest. We are their container. Like there's
100% empty the basket, baby.
that's
But
right.
we
There
can't
is
do it to
wisdom in
them.
that. Totally.
We can't do it to them because it flips the polarity of the masculine feminine to
Yeah,
the
man.
wrong way. And it
Yeah,
does
man.
not work. That's a whole
Yeah.
nother freaking episode. But
We'll have to come back and do that one again.
yeah,
There's this amazing song. I love like dance music and I love I love all music.
dude.
I listen to music. I'm ADHD. I have to
Former
have music
DJ,
at all
baby.
times. There you
DJ
go.
Boom Shay.
That's
Let's
what that.
go.
I think that might be what I do in my 50s. I'm going to learn how to DJ, and I'm just going to be like DJ Shane Sams, and
Let's
like.
go.
But there's I love it because like it's kind of like worship music. Like I love Christian worship music. I like anything that makes me feel anything. I love it. And I heard this song during a hard part of my journey one time, and it's this song called "I Want to Feel It All." And I
Mm.
was like, "Wow, man!" Like, because when you feel it, dude, like the anxiety, the tears. I have just learned at 47 years old, bro, last year because of some challenging things that I never even could have thought I was going to have to face as a man in my family. I did not know how to grieve
Mm.
until even through deaths, even through things like I really didn't know. We're not taught that as men,
Yeah.
really. And dude, I learned how to grieve recently, and it just changed the way I thought about everything I had ever learned and about emotions. It actually changed the whole way I look at like the Jesus story. Like everybody's like, Jesus is love, Jesus is love, God so loved the world. Everybody's love, 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 love. They forget in the story, regardless of your religious beliefs, whatever it is. I'm kind of a Jordan Peterson guy. Like I like to analyze the story and how the legend, and if you want to whatever we believe, I believe what I believe, you believe what you believe. But in that story, the whole culture has erased the most important part of that story is that Jesus loved. So love is the start of it all, and then there's the resurrection, the rebirth, the phoenix, whatever, rise from the ashes. I just realized this back in November and December. In the middle of that story, the resurrection of your life, the renewal, the new thing, the phoenix rising from the ashes can't happen until the middle part. In the middle, God grieved, and the in the story the earth shakes and the veil rips and all, like you can't just love your way in happiness and everything sunshine and rainbows out of this. There's a grief part of it, that polarity between those two things. That's what makes the next chapter possible. That's what makes the next thing possible. And I think with guys, freaking cry, get pissed, scream, rage with dudes, not against your wife, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but that we miss that. And I feel robbed of my first 47 years in life. I didn't know how to cry. I didn't know how to grieve. I didn't know how to do these things. And like, we need more of that, man. We need more of that.
Yeah,
We
if
need more
you
Clinton Youngs, baby. That's what we need in our lives. Is more
let's go
Clinton
Shane
Youngs, baby.
Sams. If
Yeah,
you
man.
can't, one of my buddies, Dave, says, if you can't feel it, you can't heal it. Right. And I know it doesn't
Mm,
just completely heal, but it's a healing process. But if you can't feel it, you can't heal it. Right. So it's a doorway. It's an access to more fulfillment and aliveness in life when you
good
can
deal, man.
actually
What are you
feel
up
it.
to, man? What's going on in your world? Tell everybody what you're doing, man. What's going on over there in
Yeah.
Clinton Young's universe, bro?
So, I'm actually in a transition point right now in my life.
Right there
And
with you, man.
yeah, I'm still speaking, and I work with a couple of folks on really entrepreneurs who want to use speaking to grow their business. But I'm really building out my black sheep habits. In
Yeah, man.
fact, if your peeps want to grab a free gift, I can give you a free
Totally.
gift at
Throw it out
Black
there.
Sheep. Yeah, blacksheephabits.com. There's nothing for sale. I don't even have a funnel. It's literally just grab the Black Sheep Habits and
Yeah, man.
start deploying these in your life, because man, when habits aren't sexy, but they're the key to success. Right. And
Yeah.
what is you got to Marcus Aurelius behind you, another famous dude. The heck was his name? Really famous dude. You can look him up. He says, it's not
Yeah.
merely an act, but a habit. At the end of the day, like, we are a result of our habitual ways of being.
Yeah.
Right. So everything that I talk about in the Black Sheep Habits, and all the things that I've shared today, we need to find ways to change our state, because how we feel in any given moment is going to dictate what we say and do. And what we
Yeah, man.
do is going to dictate our results. And that's either going to allow us to spiral up into a higher place or spiral down into negative thinking, right? And
Yeah.
limiting beliefs.
Yeah. Have
So,
you seen Trey's spiral thing, spiral up into the positives and spiral down? Have you ever seen that
no,
before?
I haven't.
All right,
I
we'll
haven't.
talk about it off air in a bit. I'm gonna tell you something cool, but we'll
Mhm.
save that for the next conversation we have because, like, I know I'm gonna have you back on, dude. But hey, man, thanks for hanging out with me, bro. Like, I do want to tell you, man. Like, I really value the people in my life, man. And like I think that the things spin into your life like at the right time, right place, for right reason. Everything works out for our good. There's a reason. And I know me and you have orbited each other in the past, but it's been really just beautiful, man. Getting to know you, getting to know your story. We have a lot of common friends. And man, you're a good dude, Clint Young. And I appreciate you for being on the podcast today, dude.
Thanks, Shane. My pleasure. Right back at you, my friend.
All right, guys, that wraps up my conversation with Clinton Young. Absolutely great man. Loved hanging out with Clinton there. And I just love people doing the work, man. We're all on a journey and we're all trying to figure it out. We've all had our successes, we've all had our failures, and we're all just looking for those frameworks, those things that can help us. I wrote down during that conversation with Clinton, when you don't know what to do something you're interested in. And that interest can become something you're inspired to do. And then that inspiration can unlock your intuition so that you can find something out. I know there's a lot of times that men get out there, we're always in our head trying to do everything alone and trying to be independent, be our own man. And but the answers really are inside, man. But sometimes you need some other people to talk to. You need some people to hang out with. Maybe you need some of those frameworks and things like that to really stir up that inspiration inside of you. That's what we do over at greatmen.org. We've got an online community over there where guys are just talking. We're not trying to solve anything. Not necessarily finding all the answers, not nobody telling you what to do. I hate that when you pour your heart out to somebody and you're vulnerable and, oh, I know exactly what you should do because this worked for me, but it doesn't necessarily work for everybody. We're all just trying to find the answers and trying to inspire each other a little bit and support each other. You can check that out. We have the Great Men Brotherhood, which is an online community that you can check in every day with other good men on the road to being great on their own terms. You can check that out. We do have a free tier for that. It's absolutely free if you're just looking for a place to go hang out and chat and talk to other dudes doing great things. Check that out. And you can also learn more about our Great Men retreats. We're going to be having similar events to my houseboat trip. We're planning those now for 2026 and 2027. And our goal is to get a bunch of great men together around a fire and figure out how to do life together, do it better, and build the lives out that we want. Chase greatness on our own terms. That's all I got for this week. Thank you so much for listening to Great Men with Shane Sams. Head over to greatmen.org and check out everything else we're doing. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. If you haven't done it yet, go leave us a 5-star review if you're enjoying what we're doing here. And if this is bringing value to your life so that we can help more people learn about the podcast as we go. I'll catch you next time.